Every heating system in the modern home follows the same logic. Burn something: gas, oil, wood, propane. Convert chemical energy into thermal energy. Lose 30 to 50% in the process, vent the rest through a chimney. Repeat every hour of every cold night for the life of the building. Pay for the fuel, pay for the furnace, pay for the maintenance, pay for the chimney sweep. Pay for the carbon dioxide that enters the atmosphere at 7.5 tons per household per year. But there is a system that follows no part of that logic. It does not burn anything. It does not create heat. It moves heat from the ground through a pipe into a home. The earth below the frost line is 55 degrees. Always it has been 55 degrees since before the house was built. It will be 55 degrees after the house is demolished. A loop of pipe absorbs that heat. A compressor concentrates it. The system delivers 4 units of heat for every 1 unit of electricity it consumes, 400% efficiency. The ground loop lasts 50 to 100 years. The fuel cost is zero. The carbon emission is near zero. And the system was invented in 1948. Every rule of modern home heating says burn something and pay forever. This system says stop burning, stop paying. Use what is already beneath your feet. And the industry that profits from the burning spent $450 million in a single election, cycle 2, make sure you never look down. The idea did not begin in 1948. It began 10,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence confirms that Paleo-Indians in North America settled around naturally occurring hot springs more than 10,000 years ago. They bathed in them, they cooked in them, they built their shelters beside them. They did not understand thermodynamics. They understood something more fundamental. The earth holds heat, constant heat, reliable heat, free heat, and whoever lives near it does not need fire to survive the winter. 2,000 years ago, the Romans took the same observation and engineered it. They built a system called a hypocaust, channels beneath stone floors that circulated hot air drawn from geothermal springs. The bathhouses of Rome, the villas of Pompeii, heated from below. No wood burned in the living space, no smoke in the room, just warmth rising through the floor from the ground. In 1852, a British physicist named William Thomson, later known as Lord Kelvin, described the thermodynamic principle that made the modern version possible. He proposed that heat could be moved from a cooler body to a warmer body if external work was applied. This was not a new law. It was a precise description of what the Earth had been doing for 4.5 billion years. The ground stores thermal energy. A mechanical system can extract it. The mathematics were already settled in the 19th century. Then, in 1948, an American inventor named Robert C. Weber made it real. He was working with a deep freezer in Indianapolis. He noticed the condenser coils on the back of the unit were producing significant waste heat. The freezer was pulling warmth out of the food inside and dumping it into the room. Weber asked a question that changed everything. If a freezer can pull heat from food, can a larger system pull heat from the earth? He buried copper loops in the ground outside his home. He circulated fluid through them. The fluid absorbed heat from the soil, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Constant, he ran the heated fluid through a compressor. The temperature rose. He distributed it through the floors of his house. The house warmed. No furnace, no chimney, no fuel delivery, no flame. He had built the first residential ground source heat pump. The technology is not a ground source heat pump in the way most people imagine. There is no drilling into magma, no volcanic activity required, no hot springs needed. The system uses the shallow earth, 6 to 10 feet below the surface, where the temperature does not change. The United States of Energy confirms the range, 40 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, consistent in every state, in every season, in every climate zone. A loop of high-density polyethylene pipe is buried in this zone, horizontally in a trench or vertically in a borehole. A solution of water and food-grade antifreeze circulates through the loop. It absorbs the Earth's thermal energy. The fluid returns to a heat pump unit inside the home. A compressor concentrates the heat. A distribution system delivers it through ducts or radiant floor piping. The process is reversible. In summer, the system runs in reverse. It extracts heat from the house and deposits it into the ground. Heating and cooling. From one system, one pipe, one direction change. No outdoor unit exposed to weather. No condenser fan humming on the side of the house. The ground source system operates at 25 to 40 decibels indoors, quieter than a library, quieter than a conversation, quieter than the furnace it replaced. The numbers are not theoretical. They are measured, published, and repeatable. A conventional natural gas furnace operates at 80 to 95% PERCENT AFUE, annual fuel utilization efficiency. That means for every 100 units of gas burned, 80 to 95 units become usable heat. The rest escapes through the flue. That is the ceiling. Combustion can never exceed 100% efficiency. Physics does not allow it. Energy is always lost when chemical bonds are broken and reformed. A ground source heat pump does not burn anything. It moves heat, and because it moves existing thermal energy rather than creating it, the coefficient of performance exceeds 1. A modern ground source heat pump operates at a COP of 4 or higher, 400%, for every 1 unit of electricity consumed. 4 units of thermal energy are delivered into the home. Energetica confirmed this. Geocomfort confirmed this. The Energy Star program of the United States government lists COP as the primary efficiency metric for geothermal systems and sets minimum thresholds well above any combustion alternative. Correct that it does not exceed the laws of thermodynamics. It obeys them precisely. The energy is not created. It is collected from the ground, concentrated by the compressor, and delivered into the living space. The electricity powers the compressor and the circulation pump. The heat itself comes from the earth, free, constant, renewable, on a geological timescale. The efficiency advantage translates directly into cost. Geocomfort published that geothermal systems can save homeowners up to 70% on heating and cooling costs. Dandelion Energy, a geothermal company that originated as a project within Google X, calculated that a typical home switching from a 15-year-old gas furnace would use an additional 7,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity per year, but save over $1,500 annually on total energy costs. That is a 47% reduction in combined heating and cooling expense. The system does not degrade in cold weather. This is the critical distinction from air source heat pumps, which lose efficiency as outdoor temperatures drop below 30 degrees. A ground source system draws from underground. The ground does not care about the wind chill. At minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, the soil 6 feet below is still 55 degrees. The COP holds, the system delivers. Reddit communities in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Canada report consistent performance in the coldest winters on the continent. The lifespan confirms the economics. The indoor heat pump unit lasts 20 to 25 years. A conventional gas furnace lasts 15 to 20. But the ground loop, the buried pipe, lasts 50 to 100 years. Some manufacturers describe it as lasting the lifetime of the home. One installation, one trench or borehole, decades of heat. With no fuel bill, the payback period, the time required for energy savings to recoup the installation cost, averages 5 to 10 years, with the current 30% federal tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act without incentives. It extends to 10 to 15 after payback. Every unit of heat delivered is functionally free. For the remaining 40 to 90 years of the ground loop's life, the environmental impact is proportional to the efficiency. The NRDC published that a typical U.S. home can cut heating-related climate pollution by 45 to 72% by switching from a gas furnace to an electric heat pump. A ground source system with its higher COP sits at the upper end of that range. A Toronto Metropolitan University study found that ground source systems reduced COI emissions by 36% compared to a gas boiler, even after accounting for electricity grid emissions. The average U.S. household produces approximately 7.5 tons of COI equivalents per year. A significant portion comes from space heating. Replace the furnace with a ground source heat pump, and that number drops. Measurably, immediately, permanently. Now follow the money. 47% of American homes are heated with natural gas. That is not an estimate. That is the U.S. Energy Information Administration's published figure. 47%. Nearly half the country locked into a recurring monthly fuel payment to heat the air inside a box. Using combustion, in the 21st century, the global natural gas market was valued at approximately $4.19 trillion in 2024. Trillion, not billion. The geothermal heat pump market was valued at approximately 12 to 15 billion. The ratio is not close. The gas industry is roughly 300 times larger, and it intends to stay that way in the 2024 U.S. election cycle. The fossil fuel industry spent between $219 million and $450 million on political contributions and lobbying. Yale Climate Connections documented the lower figure. Climate Power documented the higher. The American Center for Progress reported that fossil fuel companies spent more than $150 million in direct federal lobbying in the same period. The strategy is not subtle. In 2023, Desmog investigated and published evidence that a gas industry lobby group funded a media campaign specifically designed to discredit heat pumps. Not a single article about efficiency, not a technical critique. A media blitz designed to confuse consumers and protect gas boiler sales. Then there are the regulations. In Suffolk County, Long Island, the local water authority banned open-loop geothermal systems entirely. Existing geothermal customers were told they could never switch to public water service. In Illinois, regulators proposed a 50-foot setback requirement for closed-loop geothermal boreholes from sewer lines. A rule so restrictive it would eliminate most residential installations in existing neighborhoods. In New York State, closed-loop geothermal boreholes spent years in regulatory limbo. Largely unregulated, not because they were proven safe, but because no agency had written rules for them. These are not safety measures. Open-loop systems that discharge into aquifers raise legitimate environmental questions, but closed-loop systems are sealed. Nothing enters the ground, nothing leaves the ground. A food-grade antifreeze solution circulates in a sealed polyethylene pipe. The pipe is the same material used in municipal water lines. It does not leak, it does not corrode, it does not contaminate. The permitting complexity is the suppression, not a ban with a stamp and a signature, something quieter, a process so slow, so expensive, and so bureaucratically layered that most homeowners abandon the idea before the first trench is dug. Compare this to a gas furnace installation. A licensed HVAC contractor arrives, connects the unit to an existing gas line, files a standard mechanical permit. The system is operational in 1 to 3 days. Cost, $3,000 to $7,000. A ground source heat pump requires a specialized installer, a drilling rig, or a trenching crew. Environmental review in some jurisdictions. Well permits, setback compliance, inspections. The system costs $15,000 to $50,000 before tax credits. The process takes weeks, sometimes months. The gas furnace is not cheaper because it is better. It is cheaper because the infrastructure, the gas lines, the permitting, the supply chain, was built over a century to make it easy. The geothermal alternative was never given the same infrastructure because every home that installs a ground loop is a home that disconnects from the gas grid permanently. And the industry that sells the gas has spent more than enough money to make sure that process remains difficult. The question is not whether the technology works, it is whether it can be accessed. The answer depends on the starting point. For a homeowner with an existing natural gas furnace approaching the end of its 15 to 20-year lifespan, the replacement decision is the intervention point. A new gas furnace costs $3,000 to $7,000 and locks the household into another 15 to 20 years of monthly fuel bills. A ground source heat pump costs $15,000 to $25,000 after the 30% federal tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act. The payback period is 5 to 10 years. After that, the heating cost drops to the electricity required to run the compressor and circulation pump, approximately 6,500 to 8,500 kilowatts per year. At the national average electricity rate, that is roughly $60 to $100 per month, compared to $150 to $300 per month for natural gas, the savings compound over the 50 to 100-year life of the ground loop. The cumulative difference is measured in tens of thousands of dollars. For new construction, the economics are even stronger. The ground loop is installed during excavation before the foundation is poured. No separate drilling rig needed. No landscaping to repair. The incremental cost over a conventional HVAC system drops significantly. Dandelion Energy, the company that emerged from Google X, has pioneered a model that reduces installation cost through proprietary drilling technology and offers a geothermal as a service leasing program with zero upfront cost. The homeowner pays a monthly rate that is typically lower than their previous gas bill. The system is installed, maintained, and monitored by Dandelion. For renters and apartment dwellers, the path is different. District geothermal systems, shared ground loops that serve entire buildings or neighborhoods, are being deployed in multiple U.S. cities. These systems amortize the drilling cost across many units, making per-household economics comparable to conventional heating. Iceland provides the proof of concept at national scale. Approximately 90% of Icelandic homes are heated with geothermal energy, not through heat pumps, but through direct use of geothermal hot water. The principle is the same. The earth provides the heat. The infrastructure distributes it. The fuel cost is zero. Sweden provides the proof of concept for heat pumps specifically. Over 1 million heat pump units are installed in Sweden. More than half of all residential homes in the country have one. Sweden has 427 installed heat pumps per 1,000 households. The country is cold. The technology works. The United States has over 23 million heat pumps installed, but the vast majority are air source. Ground source systems remain a fraction of the total, not because they underperform, because the installation process was never streamlined, never standardized, and never subsidized at the level required to compete with the gas industry's century-long infrastructure advantage. The 30% federal tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act is the first significant corrective measure. But it expires on December 31, 2032, and political uncertainty surrounds its extension. The window is open. It may not stay open. The relevance is not future. It is immediate, but the urgency is carbon. The average U.S. household produces 7.5 tons of co-equivalents per year. There are approximately 140 million housing units in the United States. 47% of them burn natural gas. That is roughly 65 million homes, each producing tons of carbon dioxide every winter from a process that could be eliminated entirely with a loop of pipe and a compressor. The gas industry does not deny the heat pump works. It does not challenge the COP. It does not dispute the DOE's endorsement. It simply ensures the alternative remains expensive, complex, and invisible. The permitting system does not deny the technology is safe. It simply adds layers of review, delay, and cost that no gas furnace installation ever faces. The media does not deny the efficiency. It simply amplifies doubt, funded, as Desmog documented, by the industry that stands to lose. This is the triple suppression: regulatory friction, financial lobbying, media disinformation. Not one of them alone is enough to stop a 400% efficient system. Together, they have slowed it for 77 years. 6 feet beneath the surface of every home on this continent, the Earth holds a temperature it has held for longer than human civilization has existed. 55 degrees, give or take, constant, calm, indifferent to the season above. In 1948, a man in Indianapolis touched the back of a freezer and asked a question. If heat can be pulled from food, can it be pulled from the earth? He buried a pipe. He circulated fluid. He heated his home. No flame, no furnace, no fuel bill. That was 77 years ago. Since then, the gas industry has grown to $4 trillion. The fossil fuel lobby has spent hundreds of millions per election cycle. Media campaigns have been funded to discredit the technology. Regulations have been layered to slow it, and 47% of American homes still burn gas every winter because the system that would replace it was never given the same infrastructure, the same subsidies, or the same attention. The Earth does not lobby, it does not advertise, it does not run media campaigns. It just holds the heat the way it always has, the way it always will. The pipe is simple, the physics is settled, the savings are documented. The ground loop outlasts the mortgage, the furnace, and the argument against it. The only thing missing is the decision to look down. If this vault opens something for you, share it with someone who is still paying a gas bill every month. Subscribe if you have not already. The next vault opens soon.